You don't look broken. That's the problem. You wake up, you function, you answer messages, you smile when required. From the outside, your life appears intact. But inside, there is a constant pressure, a quiet tension that never fully leaves. At night, when the world finally goes silent, your mind grows louder. Thoughts replay, words you should not have said, chances you should have taken, fears you never speak out loud. You fight battles no one else can see, and because no one sees them, no one understands how exhausting they are. This is the life of the silent fighter. There are two wars in every human life. One is fought in the open world, against deadlines, responsibilities, rejection, loss, and uncertainty. The other is fought entirely in the dark, inside the mind. And the second war is always more dangerous. External pain may strike you, but it is your thoughts that decide whether that pain fades or becomes a permanent wound. You can sit in a safe room with no enemies, no immediate threats, and still feel fear tightening your chest. You can have everything you once wanted and still feel empty, not because life is attacking you, but because your mind has turned against you. This is how it begins. A single thought appears, small enough to ignore. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. They don't really respect me. At first, it feels harmless. But thoughts multiply when left unchallenged. They link together, forming a story about who you are and what your future must be. Before you realize it, that story becomes your identity. You stop questioning it. You start living inside it. And the most dangerous part is this: nothing external needs to be wrong for this prison to exist. The bars are built entirely from within. The ancient Stoics understood this long before modern psychology gave it names. They lived in a world far harsher than ours. Wars were constant. Disease was common. Slavery, exile, and sudden death were facts of daily life. Yet they discovered something that most people today never truly grasp. The mind is either your greatest ally or your most ruthless enemy. And if you do not learn to govern it, it will govern you. Marcus Aurelius was not speaking to an audience when he wrote his private reflections. He was speaking to himself, in moments of doubt, exhaustion, and loss. He ruled an empire, yet his greatest concern was not the chaos outside his control, but the chaos that could rise within him if he allowed it. He knew that a man who loses control of his thoughts can possess the whole world and still be miserable, while a man who masters his inner life can endure almost anything without breaking. This is not a video about feeling better for a few minutes. This is not comfort. This is confrontation, because the truth is uncomfortable. Your suffering is not only caused by what happened to you, it is prolonged by how your mind keeps reliving it. Your anxiety is not always a signal of danger. Often, it is a habit, a reflex, a pattern you never learn to interrupt. And until you face that fact, nothing truly changes. You can change cities, relationships, careers, routines. You will carry the same battlefield with you wherever you go. Stoicism does not promise a life without pain. It promises something far more valuable: freedom from being ruled by your pain. It teaches you how to observe your thoughts without becoming them, how to experience emotion without surrendering to it, how to accept reality without collapsing under its weight. This is not about suppressing feelings or pretending to be strong. It is about developing a quiet strength that does not depend on circumstances going your way. Right now, your mind may feel like the enemy. That does not mean you are weak. It means you have been fighting without a strategy. Every war requires rules, discipline, and clarity. Without them, even the strongest fighter exhausts himself, swinging blindly in the dark. The Stoics built systems for the mind the same way soldiers build defenses for a city. They identified the weak points. They trained daily. They accepted hardship as part of the path, not as proof of failure. In the sections that follow, we will dismantle the mental traps that keep negative thinking alive, not with vague motivation, but with precise principles tested across centuries. Each one builds on the last. Skip nothing. Rushing is how the mind avoids change. Move slowly. Read carefully. Let the ideas challenge you, because once you see how this inner war truly works, you can no longer fight it the same way. You do not need to defeat your mind, you need to lead it. And leadership begins with understanding the difference between who you are and what you think. That distinction alone has ended countless invisible wars. But before you can apply it, you must be willing to question the most basic assumption you live with every day, that your thoughts define you. They do not. And once you understand why, the ground beneath your suffering begins to crack. One of the most destructive lies you have ever believed is this: that every thought in your head is you, that your fears speak truth, that your doubts are insight, that the voice criticizing you is somehow wise. Stoicism begins by tearing this lie apart, because as long as you identify with every thought that passes through your mind, you will never be free. Think about how chaotic the mind actually is. In a single day, thousands of thoughts appear without invitation. Some are useful, many are irrational, some are cruel, others are absurd. If all of these were truly you, then you would be unstable, constantly changing, impossible to trust. Yet something in you notices these thoughts. Something hears them, reacts to them, questions them. That observer is not the thought. That observer is you. Epictetus made this distinction clear centuries ago. Events happen, thoughts arise, but suffering begins only when you agree with the thought. A negative idea entering your mind is not a failure. It is a natural function of being human. The mistake is treating that idea as a command instead of a suggestion. When a thought says, "I'm not enough," most people don't pause. They don't examine it. They accept it instantly, as if it were a verdict passed by a judge. From that moment on, every action is filtered through that belief. Confidence shrinks. Fear grows. Identity hardens around something that was never proven true. The Stoic response is radically different. A Stoic treats thoughts the way a guard treats strangers at the gate. Not every visitor is allowed inside. Some are observed and dismissed. Others are questioned. Only a few are permitted to stay. This is not repression, it is discernment. The Stoics understood that the mind, left undisciplined, will create suffering even in peace. Disciplined, it can remain calm, even in chaos. Here is the shift that changes everything. Instead of saying, "I am anxious," you say, "I am noticing anxiety." Instead of, "I am a failure," you say, "A thought of failure has appeared." This small change creates distance, and distance creates control. You are no longer trapped inside the thought. You are standing outside it, able to decide what to do next. This is not wordplay, it is power. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. When anger arose, he did not say, "I am angry, therefore I must act." He paused. He examined the feeling. He reminded himself that emotions are temporary impressions, not permanent truths. He understood that reacting automatically is the behavior of an animal, not a rational human being. Reason begins when you interrupt the reflex. Consider how often your suffering is multiplied by repetition. One painful thought appears. Instead of letting it pass, you replay it. You argue with it. You imagine outcomes that have not happened. You build an entire future around it. The original thought may have lasted seconds. The suffering lasts hours, days, sometimes years. The Stoics saw this clearly. They knew that pain is often brief, but mental resistance stretches it endlessly. A practical Stoic exercise is this: write the thought down exactly as it appears. Do not soften it. Do not dramatize it. Then question it like a cross-examiner. Is this thought a fact or an interpretation? What evidence supports it? What evidence contradicts it? Will this matter in 5 years? Would I say this to someone I care about? Most thoughts collapse under honest scrutiny. They survive only when left unchallenged. Another practice is labeling. When a destructive thought arises, name it. This is fear. This is self-doubt. This is memory, not reality. Naming weakens the thought's grip because it exposes it as a mental event, not a commandment. Over time, you stop being dragged around by every impulse. You begin to choose. This does not mean negative thoughts disappear forever. The Stoics never promised that. They promised something more realistic and more powerful. Mastery. The thought may still arise, but it no longer controls your behavior. You see it, acknowledge it, and move forward anyway. That is strength. You are not broken because your mind produces negative thoughts. You are untrained, and anything untrained behaves chaotically. The mind is no different. Once you stop confusing yourself with your thoughts, you reclaim authority. You are no longer fighting the mind, you are leading it. And leadership is calm, not reactive. This is the foundation. Without this understanding, every other technique fails, because you cannot change what you believe you are. But once you see that thoughts are visitors, not rulers, the door to freedom opens. The war inside you does not end through suppression. It ends through clarity. Most mental suffering does not come from what happens to you. It comes from your refusal to accept that it already happened. The mind replays the event again and again, not to understand it, but to fight it. This should not have happened. They should not have done that. I should not be here. And in that argument with reality, you bleed energy endlessly. The Stoics were ruthless about this point. They understood that reality does not negotiate. Events unfold according to causes far larger than your preferences, your plans, or your sense of fairness. When you resist what already is, you are not changing the outcome. You are only adding a second layer of suffering on top of the first. Pain may be unavoidable. Self-inflicted torment is not. Epictetus stated it plainly. Do not demand that events happen as you wish. Wish that they happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. This is not passivity. It is precision. It is the removal of wasted struggle. The moment you stop arguing with reality, your mind becomes available for the only question that matters. What is the next right action? Think about how much of your inner chaos is rooted in the past. Conversations replayed, decisions regretted, outcomes fantasized differently. The mind acts as if time can be reversed through repetition. But repetition does nothing except deepen the wound. The Stoic does not deny the pain of loss, betrayal, or failure. He denies the usefulness of resisting facts. Reality already won. The event is done. The only battle still happening is inside your head, and that battle is optional. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to return to this truth constantly. When faced with misfortune, he reminded himself that the universe had not singled him out. Change, loss, and disappointment are not personal attacks. They are conditions of existence. To demand exemption is to misunderstand life itself. When you accept this, resentment loses its fuel. Acceptance is often confused with weakness. It is not. Acceptance is the moment you stop wasting force on what cannot be altered and redirect it toward what can. A person standing in the rain can curse the sky for hours, or they can acknowledge they are wet and decide whether to move, wait, or seek shelter. One is resistance, the other is intelligence. Here is a Stoic rule you must internalize. The moment you say, "This should not be happening," you hand your power away. Because your attention is now trapped in a fantasy of how reality ought to be, instead of engaging with how it is, power returns the instant you say, "This is happening, now what?" This shift is brutal because it removes the comfort of blame. It ends the drama of victimhood. It forces responsibility, not for what happened, but for what you do next. And that responsibility is the source of dignity. There is a concept the Stoics lived by called amor fati, love of fate. Not because fate is always kind, but because resisting fate is pointless. Loving fate means treating every event as raw material. Failure becomes instruction, loss becomes training, discomfort becomes discipline. Nothing is wasted when nothing is resisted. Watch how your mind reacts when something goes wrong. Notice how quickly it creates a story of injustice, of personal attack, of meaning beyond the facts. Then interrupt it. Say it clearly, without emotion. This happened. That sentence alone collapses half the suffering, because once reality is accepted, clarity follows. You do not find peace by fixing the past. You find peace by stopping the war against it. Acceptance does not erase pain. It prevents pain from becoming identity. It allows movement. It allows growth. When you stop arguing with reality, you stop bleeding energy. That energy returns to you as focus, restraint, and strength. The mind becomes quieter, not because life is easier, but because resistance has ended. This is not surrender. This is alignment, and alignment is power. The first emotion that rises inside you is almost never the truth. It is a reflex, a spark, a primitive signal designed for survival, not wisdom. Yet most people live their entire lives obeying this first impulse, as if it were law. Anger appears, and they lash out. Fear appears, and they retreat. Jealousy appears, and they spiral. Stoicism exists to break this automatic obedience. Marcus Aurelius ruled under pressures that would crush most minds: war, plague, betrayal, political tension. And yet, in his private writings, he reminded himself of one rule again and again. Do not let the first movement of the mind carry you away. Pause, observe, choose. He understood something most people never learn. Emotion is information, not instruction. When something happens, the mind reacts instantly. This reaction is fast, loud, and exaggerated. It says danger, humiliation, threat, loss. But speed is not accuracy. The first emotion is often distorted by fear, ego, past wounds, and exhaustion. If you act from it, you act blindly. Think about how many regrets in your life began with a sentence like, "I was just angry," or "I didn't think, I just reacted." That is the cost of trusting the first emotion. It hijacks your behavior and then disappears, leaving you to deal with the damage. The Stoics trained themselves to insert a gap between stimulus and response. In that gap lies freedom. Epictetus taught that impressions strike the mind, whether we want them to or not. But assent, the decision to believe and act on them, is always optional. The problem is not feeling anger. The problem is agreeing with it immediately. Imagine an emotion like a wave. When it first hits, it is strong and violent. If you try to fight it, it overwhelms you. If you obey it, it carries you away. But if you stand still and let it pass, it loses its force. Every emotion fades if it is not fed. This is why delay is power, not suppression. Delay. When anger rises, you do not need to eliminate it. You need to wait. When fear appears, you do not need to destroy it. You need to observe it. Say to yourself, "I am feeling anger. I am feeling fear." Naming the emotion creates distance. Distance restores control. Marcus Aurelius practiced what is now called the view from above. When overwhelmed, he imagined himself rising above the situation, seeing his life from a wider perspective. From that height, insults shrink, delays become trivial, conflicts lose their drama. Perspective dissolves emotional exaggeration. Ask yourself this when emotion spikes. Will this matter tomorrow? Will this matter in a year? Will this matter on my deathbed? Most emotional reactions collapse under that question, not because the event was meaningless, but because the reaction was inflated. The Stoic does not deny emotion, he disciplines it. He refuses to be dragged by it. He understands that emotions are temporary guests, not permanent rulers. When you give them absolute authority, they run your life. When you make them wait, they teach you something and then leave. Here is a rule you must practice daily. Never make decisions at the peak of emotion. Wait until the mind is calm enough to think clearly. Silence is not weakness. Restraint is not fear. Pausing is not losing. It is choosing not to lose control. When you stop trusting the first emotion, you reclaim authorship over your actions. You stop living reactively. You stop apologizing for words you wish you never said. You stop sabotaging your future to satisfy a momentary feeling. This discipline will feel uncomfortable at first. Your mind is used to instant release. But over time, calm becomes your default. You become someone who cannot be easily provoked, manipulated, or destabilized. And that calm becomes strength. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are strong when you refuse to be ruled by what you feel. Most suffering does not come from what happens to you. It comes from the story you immediately attach to what happens. The event is neutral. Your interpretation is what turns it into torment. This is one of the most dangerous traps of the mind, and also one of the most powerful places to regain control. Marcus Aurelius wrote a line that dismantles this illusion completely. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your judgment about it. And this judgment you can revoke at any moment. Read that again slowly. Your pain is not inevitable. It is constructed. Think about how your mind works under stress. Something goes wrong, a message is ignored, a plan fails, a person disappoints you. Instantly, your mind fills in the gaps with meaning. They don't respect me. I always fail. This proves I'm not enough. None of these are facts. They are stories. And yet you live as if they are truth. The Stoics understood that the human mind is a storyteller by nature. It cannot tolerate uncertainty, so it invents explanations. The danger is that these explanations are almost always biased toward fear and self-attack. The mind would rather be wrong than be silent. Here is where discipline begins. You must separate facts from narratives. The fact is simple and objective. A reply did not come. A job was lost. A relationship ended. That is all. Everything else is commentary, and commentary is optional. Epictetus taught his students to interrogate their thoughts like a courtroom witness. When a painful thought arises, you do not accept it automatically. You question it. Is this absolutely true? What evidence supports this? What evidence contradicts it? Would I say this to someone I respect? This process weakens false stories until they collapse under their own weight. Most negative thinking survives because it is never challenged. It repeats itself until it feels familiar. Familiarity then disguises it as truth. But repetition does not equal reality. It only means the thought has been rehearsed. Another Stoic technique is reframing. Not to lie to yourself, but to choose a more accurate interpretation. Failure does not mean you are incapable. It means something did not work. Rejection does not mean you are unworthy. It means there was a mismatch. Delay does not mean disaster. It means timing is unclear. Your mind will resist this at first. It is addicted to dramatic narratives. But with practice, clarity replaces chaos. You begin to see events as events, not as verdicts on your identity. Remember this. You are not the voice in your head telling the story. You are the one listening to it. And if you are listening, you have the power to stop the story, rewrite it, or let it pass. The Stoic does not seek to control the world. He controls meaning. And when meaning is mastered, suffering loses its grip. Every time you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself one question. What am I adding to this moment that does not belong to it? Remove that addition and watch how much lighter the moment becomes. This is not denial. It is precision. And precision is freedom. At some point, the noise fades. Not because life suddenly becomes gentle, but because you stop feeding the chaos inside you. This is the moment most people miss. They think change announces itself with fireworks. In reality, transformation arrives quietly, almost unnoticed, like a room growing still after a long storm. The Stoics understood this ending well. They did not chase dramatic conclusions or perfect resolutions. They aimed for something far more durable: steadiness. A mind that no longer panics when plans collapse. A heart that no longer begs the world for permission to be at peace. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that life is nothing more than a series of present moments. Lose the present, and you lose your life. Hold it with clarity, and you are already rich. This is where all the lessons come together, not as ideas, but as a posture toward existence. You no longer argue with reality. You no longer let the first emotion seize the wheel. You no longer believe every story your mind invents. You begin to pause, to breathe, to choose, and in that choice, something fundamental shifts. You are no longer reacting to life. You are meeting it. There is a quiet courage in this. The courage to sit with discomfort without running. The courage to accept uncertainty without inventing catastrophes. The courage to be alone with your thoughts and not be destroyed by them. Most people never develop this courage. They stay busy, distracted, loud, because silence would force them to face themselves. But you stayed. You listened. You practiced. And now you begin to notice something subtle. The thoughts that once felt overwhelming start to lose their authority. They still appear, but they no longer command. Fear knocks, but you do not have to open the door. Regret whispers, but you do not have to obey. You have learned the Stoic skill that matters most: distance. Distance does not mean coldness, it means clarity. You can care deeply without drowning. You can feel pain without becoming it. You can love without clinging. This is not emotional numbness. It is emotional maturity. Seneca wrote that a man is as miserable as he believes himself to be. The opposite is also true. A person who understands their mind is never truly trapped. Circumstances may tighten, people may leave, plans may fail, but inner freedom remains intact. This is where peace actually lives. Not in perfect days, not in flawless relationships, not in a future version of yourself who finally has it all together. Peace lives in this moment, when you stop fighting what is and start governing how you meet it. You begin to measure success differently, not by how little you struggle, but by how quickly you recover your balance. Not by how often you feel calm, but by how gently you return to calm when you lose it. Progress is no longer dramatic. It is quiet, consistent, internal, and this is the choice you face now. You can return to old habits, old narratives, old mental battles, because they are familiar. Or you can continue this quieter path, the path of attention, of responsibility, of discipline without cruelty, of strength without noise. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They promised a free one, a life where your peace is not rented from circumstances, but owned by character. A life where storms still come, but they do not decide who you are. So let this be the final thought that stays with you after the screen goes dark. You do not need to silence every negative thought. You only need to stop letting them rule you. You do not need to fix your entire life. You only need to govern this moment well. That is enough. And if tomorrow is difficult, remember this. You have faced difficult moments before. You are still here, calmer than you were, clearer than you were, stronger than you think. This is not an ending. It is a turning point.